Hi everybody, I want to use this quick video to talk to you about this document that I'm asking you to start filling out today. This is some of the behind the scenes work that I want you to start to do to think through what you might want to say about your genre or about your discourse community in this next paper. So when you pull up this document, remember we don't want technology to be an obstacle for us, so if you can't type into either version of this document, just pull up another document of your own next to it and answer the questions on it. There's no need to have this formatted in a special way or anything. So the purpose of this document is to put a bunch of ideas down and a bunch of information, both from the genre that you're working with as well as from other sources that you might research online. So you'll see that it starts with some questions, just a description of your genre. You'll remember that from our student examples, they have a paragraph that is that description paragraph, and you're going to need to develop that anyway. Throughout this whole document, if you are focusing on a community, on a discourse community with several different genres in it, then what you would do in this section here is describe the discourse community instead of just describing one genre. So you might describe the characteristics of the discourse community, who's part of it, and then what genres they use and how they use those. So throughout this document, you could use it to gather information about the genre, one genre that you're analyzing, or about a community of people who use genres to get their work done together. So describing it, we'll need to include that in our paper. And then if we scroll down, you'll see this first gray box here. The reason I put that in gray, these are questions from an article about genre analysis. And the questions in this gray box are the places where when you answer these questions, it might get you to something interesting to say as part of the thesis in your paper. So by thinking about what content is typically in the genre and what's excluded, how the genres are structured, what type of sentences and style do they use, these are the kind of things that might help you get to something interesting that you want to make an argument about in your paper. So we're not going to make an argument about this stuff up here, that it's a genre and it has characteristics, because we know that and we're just going to describe that. We need to say something interesting about the genre and how it works. So that's what we're going to try to get to. Number 2 is a table, just like we practiced with the presidential speeches. And I would encourage you with the samples that you brought today to start to put them next to each other, just like we did with the presidential speeches, and then to start thinking about characteristics that you notice either having similarities or differences across those examples. If you're looking at a discourse community, you might, as your samples, have 3 different genres, 2 or 3 different genres that your community uses, and then you would talk about characteristics that are shared across those, rather than just picking out 3 samples of the same genre. Either way it could work. Either way, we're looking at a kind of a bird's eye view of the genres and the characteristics of them and how people use them, that then we could use moving forward to be able to come to some great conclusions or get to a thesis about our genre. Then you'll see another gray box here on page 2. This is asking about patterns between the genre samples. So you might notice patterns once you get your genres into your table up here, right? So I'm thinking about those patterns. What do participants have to know to be able to understand genres in that community? Who's invited to write them or read them and who's kind of excluded from that? What roles for readers and writers do these genres encourage or discourage? So again, the gray box here is a way to get to a thesis or an argument about your genre, and any one of these bullet points could be something that leads you to something really interesting to talk about that could be the focus of your whole paper. And then finally, question 3 down here, begin to do contextual research. So remember to keep track of your sources, but you might want to look up things like who writes this genre, how many people are part of this discourse community, when the discourse community started. This would be a place, like if I was doing that presidential speeches one, I'd want to look at how people reacted to those speeches. Maybe I'd want to look at more information about those historical events. Maybe I'd want to look up more information about the characteristics of that genre so it could help me understand it better. So remember to keep track of your sources, even if it's messy and it's just putting links here. but start to think about what questions you have about the genre or about the community and start to find some research to answer those questions. So today we're going to complete this document, put as many ideas here as you can, including ideas that you find interesting from the gray boxes, and then we'll use this to start thinking about a thesis and an outline for our paper beginning on Thursday. Reach out if you have any questions.